What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Johnny Bro Review. I'm Johnny Bro, and in today's episode, we're going over 5 of my favorite psychological thriller movies. So yeah, man, I've always been a big fan of the making you think movies, the psychological thriller stuff, and this isn't a top 5 list. This is just 5 of my random favorites, so we'll revisit this topic again at some point and talk about 5 more. So let's go ahead and get right into it with today's list. First one up is The Silence of the Lambs. Man, I love this one, dude. Again, you'll probably hear me say this a lot. One of my favorite films of all time, for sure, man. Definitely one of my favorite psychological films, but it's up there for me big time. So much rewatchability for me, man. I've seen this thing a million times and can watch it a million more. I love the back and forth between Hannibal and Clarice, man. Such great chemistry here with our actors and the characters, man. Solid stuff, dude. Such a great looking film, too, man. Just wonderful cinematography. You get those great close-ups and just a super atmospheric and just dreary and very depressing feeling. Just that sense of looming dread over the whole film just makes it, man. It's just so good. Wonderfully directed, wonderful score, wonderfully put together, man. Silence of the Lambs is just top-tier stuff, man. What could be said about it that hasn't already been said? Hannibal being one of my favorite horror movie villains of all time, mainly because of the psychological aspects in this film. I also just love where it goes, man, with the final act and his escape and everything. It's just so good, man. Wonderful stuff. Yeah, Silence of the Lambs definitely up there for me with psychological horror for sure, dude. Definitely. Next one up on the list is my favorite Jordan Peele film, Us. I love this one, man. The marketing for it was super cool. I love the style. The hype was real, dude. I was super hyped for it. Pretty big Get Out fan, but this one was just something about it, man. Just that old school style to it, and just the weirdness, the jumpsuits and the scissors and the rabbits, that like weird symbolism stuff. I'm just a big sucker for that kind of stuff, man. So definitely pulled me in and definitely kept me interested. Super creepy too. The voices were super weird, just the ominous feel and just really scary, creepy stuff, man. Super wild concept. I love the weirdness of the concept. It just feels so far out, like something from like way back in the day. It's very experimental. Very cool way to play the social commentary into it. Very cool. But yeah, man, Us is such a fun ride, dude. I dig the style, the score, that epic soundtrack is just so perfect, man. What they did with that one song is just so cool. So yeah, so far, Us is definitely my favorite Jordan Peele, and I definitely want more in the tone of that from Jordan. Next one up is American Psycho. Man, I love the satirical, psychological aspect to this thing, man. Such a weird, interesting character study that's just all over the place. Just the whole, like, mask of sanity thing slipping and just, like, the way he's reacting to stuff and his dialogue is just so spot on, man. Such a wonderful role. And I also just love the levels of, like, what's going on with this film. Like, did he do it? Didn't he do it? We'll definitely break that aspect down further in a video dedicated to that for sure. But just like the aspects of like him thinking he really didn't do it, maybe, but then maybe he did. Just the aspect that like maybe he did do it, maybe he didn't. It's just always been so interesting to me. And the evidence that could support the fact that maybe he did do it is very interesting. The way everybody kind of mistakes each other in this film could lend to that, like how he could be mistaken for somebody else and people just really aren't paying attention. So you can kind of get away with stuff at this time. But then the surrealist stuff comes in, like the feed me a stray cat and the cop cars exploding and looking at the gun and stuff like that. So it's like, what really is going on here? You know what I mean? But yeah, definitely wanted to break down in its own episode for sure. So stay tuned for that. The next one up on the list is kind of a divisive one, I think. I've seen a lot of hate for it online, but I always really liked it ever since I saw it, and it was 10 Cloverfield Lane. Man, I really dig this one. I'm a big John Goodman fan. I thought he did wonderful for this role. Super creepy, super ominous, super weird, man. Very scary stuff. Very claustrophobic feel, obviously. He was stuck in the bomb shelter this whole time. But I love the psychological aspect that Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character has to go through, where she's like, well, maybe I should trust this guy, maybe he's right. And then she'll find little pieces of evidence and like actions that he's doing. It's like, well, maybe he's just crazy. It's like, well, maybe he's right and he's crazy. It's very interesting to me. It kind of keeps you going back and forth a little bit. But yeah, great chemistry, great claustrophobic feel, great vibes. I dig 10 Cloverfield Lane quite a bit, man. I think it could work as a good prequel to Cloverfield in watching order. I didn't see the Cloverfield Paradox. I've heard a lot of bad things about that one. I skipped it, but maybe I'll have to check it out. All right, and the last one on the list is David Fincher's Seven. Man, again, beginning the list with one of my favorites and ending the list with one of my favorites. Seven is definitely one of my favorite films of all time for sure. It's definitely up there in the maybe top 10, maybe top 5. I don't know. That's a tough one. We'll have to get into that one day. But Yeah, man, Seven is just great, dude. So perfect. I love the vibe. I love the feel. Just the rainy, nasty, gritty city vibes. Gritty City is like one of my favorite vibes of all time, man. So I love so much like throwback exploitation films from the 70s and stuff from the 80s and stuff like Maniac and whatnot. Really dig those type of things. It's a nasty city feel. And I feel like this one really captures that. Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt, I mean, just wonderful chemistry here, dude. Perfectly matched. Perfect like odd couple work in this case here. The Seven Deadly Sins aspect is really cool, and how that plays into the psychological aspect of the motivations. Oh man, so good, so good. The ending, just the cherry on top, man. Wonderful stuff. This film looks good, it sounds good, it's shot well. It's just such a cool film from that era that really like marks like just how good movies were from that time. And that's definitely another 5 of my favorites I need to do, is like maybe like mid to late 90s era 5 of my favorites or something, man, because there was just so much solid stuff coming out that wasn't necessarily horror but was like maybe pushing the envelope a little bit, but super fun. Yeah, man, 7 up there for me for sure. But yeah, that's gonna do it for today's episode, man. Let me know what 5 of your favorite psychological thriller movies are in the comments below. Let me know what you think about my picks. But that's gonna do it for the video, so y'all have a good one, and I'll see you next time.